Okay, hello all you crazy people out there. My name is Stupid, and welcome back to Angels with Scaly Wings. We have some chores to do. So first we'll be picking out the top item on the list. If I knew like where these locations were located relative to each other, I would probably go for the one that was nearest, but since I don't, I'm just gonna go down the list. When I approached Anna's lab, I saw her sitting on the hallway floor, the door to her lab wide open. Hey, Anna, and you're greeting me with a facepalm once again. Oh, it's you. What's going on here? The police came and raided the place. What? Why? It's a long story and I'm not going to tell it now. Is it bad? What do you think? Of course it's bad. I don't know yet. I'm not sure how they expect me to work in these conditions, considering that I get assignments from the council and the police. And then they both turn up and around and mess up the place as if it's part of their job. It doesn't make any sense to me. Someone's going to hear about this and there will be consequences, I can tell you that. Anyway, what do you want? I'm here to drop this off to you courtesy of the police. This may not be the best moment. That's what I'm talking about. Mess up my place, then ask for my help. Something isn't right here, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Conspiracy. What is this, anyway? I'm sorry, it's a bloody bandage for analysis. It's related to the Reza investigation. Alright then, I'll take it. Not for the police department's sake, but for yours. Don't let me hold you up. I'm sure you have places to be. We'll see you then. Yeah. Alright, that was fast. I can just go home. Wait a minute, am I only allowed to choose, am I only allowed to choose 2 of these before, like, something's gonna take over? The library sounds like information as usual, and that also does make it sound like I'm gonna have to run into Remy, and that's going to be awkward. But it doesn't look like he's here. Kuas, excuse me, can I help you? Do you know where the audio section is? I'm looking for some sheet music. Sorry, I have no idea. I don't even work here. Ah, don't worry about it. The staff all seem to be in hiding somewhere. Anyway, have a good day. You too. Are we gonna see you again? Maybe Remy is somewhere in the back. Maybe Remy is somewhere in the back or in his office. Hello? You know, this section is usually for staff only. I'm just looking for Remy. I'm supposed to drop off this PDA. Well, he is not working today. Apparently, he has other engagements. Which I'm sure he is delighted about, considering that I'm here. If you need to find him, you can probably do so at his home. Can't I just leave the PDA here? Oh, I am not going to take responsibility for this if it gets lost. If you want to drop it off, go find him. Okay. By the way, I hope you do not take it personally that I tried to send you away. To be honest, I'm glad that you're still here. Remember, I said that I believed you when you told me your side of the story. I always have to do what is in the public's best interest, and now they will not blame me if you have any connections with Reza. I hope you can understand that. Here's Remy's address in case you need it. Thank you! Kind of already know where he lives, and we're not going to talk about that. Is anybody home? Well, the door's unlocked. Well, if he isn't here and left the door open, that's not good. I went inside and closed the door behind me. Remy! Are you there? Your front door was wide open. What the? Is he dead? I'm losing track of how many people are dead in the story so far. Remy! How well did you know him? A little. Not as much as I would have liked, really. Well, I see. I know he met you when you initially arrived here at the very least. It doesn't look like he's left a suicide note or anything. I know he has no family, and I don't think he had many friends either. And I feel like I would know more of this backstory had I not completely gotten myself kicked out in the last video. Do you have any idea why he might have done this? Yeah, see, I would know which of these options is more likely had I not got myself kicked out in the end of the last video, so screw me then. I definitely want to reread this from the beginning, preferably at some point, and go through every like line of dialogue in the game so I can find out everything. I don't know if I'm going to have time for that though. Hey. We'll see. I suppose the reason doesn't really matter at this point. He's already gone. It's always a shame when things like this happen, when there are resources to help people who have issues and illnesses. It's a mark on our society and a reminder that we let it happen. Someone suffered so much that they took their own life. I don't suppose this Like, my crashing his computer contributed to that, like, the straw that broke the camel's back or anything. But what more can you do? I'm so sorry you had to find Remy like this, though. In any case, I'll handle the rest. Feel free to take the day off if you need to. Alright, yeah, but, okay, I'm guessing there will be, more witnesses to question after that event. Thanks for all your help. Now that the facility has received the bandage, maybe we'll discover something new. I'll take care of the remaining tasks, so you can take the rest of the day off. I'm sure you will have things to do other than helping the police department. Not really. It's no problem, really. My trip to your world wasn't supposed to be a vacation. Alright then, I'll see you next time. After this fateful day, I was glad to finally have some sort of respite. I wandered into the kitchen as I considered tonight's dinner. Should I cook something or order out? When I returned to the living room, I suddenly found my strength leaving me and collapsed on the floor. Did you get poisoned? The next thing I saw was a blurry stone ceiling, and I saw these as eyes and was about to ask many questions, like eyes and mouth, and eyes, and ears too, for that matter. These are decidedly not faces, though. Okay. Hooray for humanity's, like, innate ability to see faces and things and evolutionary tactics and whatever. The next thing I saw was a blurry stone ceiling. As my eyesight slowly returned, I managed to sit up. I was in a cave, and before me stood a familiar, mysterious face. Yeah, I apologize for the violence, but I can assure you that this was the easiest way. Where am I? Is this your hideout? Just a temporary accommodation so we can be undisturbed for this meeting. Someone else used to live here until recently. And, I have to assume that if this was actually Remy in the mask, I would recognize the voice by now. And I don't, so this has to be someone new, right? Do you know who I am? Well, you're not Remy. Good, what did it take you to figure that out? Since you're not whispering anymore, I can hear it clearly in your voice. I had a feeling that you couldn't be him since the first time we met, though. Which first time are you talking about? The generator in the cellar when you pushed me. I see. You can call me the administrator. No other humans are supposed to be here, though. I assume that's why you're wearing the mask. You don't want to be recognized. That is correct. So whoever you are, you also saved my life. On more than one occasion. Your presence here doesn't make any sense. You couldn't have come through the portal. The dragons would have noticed. This is where you are wrong. My arrival through the portal is what led the dragons to discover it in the first place. So this is a mystery for my world and not theirs. Is that so? When I crawled out from the hole in the earth that hid the portal, there were no guards to discover me. My appearance exposed the portal, but the dragons didn't know it was there yet. In the artwork, the portal is shown to be like pretty prominently stationed on a hill. But I'm guessing that is not like if you were to like write this as a screenplay or something, I'm guessing that is not how it would look. And that's just how they felt like drawing it or something. So you arrived even before Reza. That makes you the actual first human to come to this world. There's more truth to that than you might think. Okay, so you're the, what did they call you earlier? The guy from the stories. I don't want to call you, like, the patriarch guy. Like the prophet or something that kickstarted the myths or whatever. That is more true than you might think. Just who are you, then? I may have arrived to the portal like you, but my story is very different. Alright. Before the fall of humanity, I was an engineer. I was part of the team that was formed to create bioweapons. Our task was to create these bioweapons in a country where their development hadn't yet been regulated or outlawed. These weapons were planned to be a low-cost alternative for poor countries to wage war so they would no longer have to rely on expensive drones and machines for warfare. I was to set up the lab where our bioweapon development would take place. It was a clandestine operation set to be in the middle of the wilderness. The laboratory was an independent research and living unit, and provided everything we needed without having to rely on external resources or even an existing power grid. I can see why you would be interested in generators. Everything was to be teleported right into the middle of nowhere with no traces or paper trail to follow, so international communities and law enforcement would have no idea of our operations. Our only connection to the outside world after setup would have been a two-way portal to our headquarters, who would provide everything we needed. While we already could teleport individual people, teleporting a whole building was another matter entirely, hence how it ended up, like, buried underground, I suppose. Our solution was matter compression technology. Incredibly expensive, but operating in the gray market was also very lucrative. The technology behind it was much more complicated than even teleportation despite being based on it. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. While teleportation works by utilizing black holes with a beginning and an end, compression technology relies on a loop, keeping matter in a sort of limbo state until the loop is broken. Working with black holes was very complicated to begin with, but this shape required much more finesse and thus was much more expensive. I was able to be sent home. Home. It kinda looks like the word home. I was able to be sent alone to set up the lab and the portal so that the rest of the team could arrive safely. In case you didn't know, it is possible to use a portal to send someone to a previously defined endpoint. Therefore, it is not required to have a portal at the destination to be sent there. But as you can imagine, this is also very dangerous. Hence how you ended up buried underground. A single variable off by a fraction could mean the difference between landing safely at your destination and smothering in space. Of course, my employer did not want anything like that to happen. Not necessarily for my own sake, but because all of the unfathomably expensive equipment I had with me. Regardless, something went wrong anyway. Despite all the checks and safeguards, they could only minimize the risk so much. Even if the risk is a fraction of a fraction, sometimes you are just that unlucky. And sometimes it turns out that your bad luck is a blessing in disguise, and astronomers would like to say that you did not get very unlucky. You just did not know all of the variables to begin with. I arrived safely somewhere in the jungles of Earth, yet it was not the destination that had been planned. I knew something was off, but nevertheless, I set to work immediately. At the very least, I could prepare the building. I would have shelter, and then I could begin preparations for our project. Getting the portal into working order would take more time, as it was a complicated process that could take several weeks. If things had gone as I suspected, I would at least be able to establish contact with headquarters after the portal had been set up, and I would be able to return. While teleporting the lab to the wrong location was certainly a costly mistake, I was still lucky to have my life. Before long, I discovered the truth about the place I had arrived. While I was still on Earth, it was not the Earth I knew. It was the Earth of 65 million years ago. We knew about that by utilizing black holes for teleportation. Time travel was a theoretical possibility. It was something even my company didn't dare to attempt, though, as teleportation in itself was a very new technology. Yet here I was, 65 million years in the past, with research station all to myself. The company would revel in the opportunity to study and profit from all the different life forms I could see. And, the arthropods. God, the arthropods. If only they knew about them. I spent a few weeks setting up the portal as planned, yet when I tried to re-establish contact with my employer, I was met with silence. Despite the time discrepancy, the portal should have been able to find my companies in the present. For a black hole, sending something through time is no different than sending something through space. However, when we build the portals, we gave them a specialized configuration. It was only possible to travel through space by aligning them across the time axis. That meant that I, in the past, would still be able to search for the portals in the present to connect with. My counterparts in the present, though, would not be able to find me in the past even if they tried. It's a bit of a one-way communication channel, I suppose. But I couldn't find them, not a single one. Even after checking the portal for its function, I determined that, for all intents and purposes, the portal from the company should have been able to connect with them. I determined that for all intents and purposes, the portals from the company should have been able to connect with. Been there to connect with. Okay, and he's saying that they weren't. It was then that I had a terrible realization. The portals in the present didn't exist anymore, or were no longer operational. Maybe the blunder of teleporting the lab had caused them to reconsider the risk of using the technology. After all, it was already controversial and had been outlawed in several countries. I wouldn't have been surprised if they had decided to cut their losses, but it was highly unlikely that they would have immediately shut down every single portal and left me stranded without notice. Portal technology was still being relied on in several places in the present. In my mind, only one possibility remained: superweapons. Various nations had been using them as a bargaining chip for some time. I didn't think the threats had become that serious, but one of them must have launched the weaponry and destroyed the majority of Earth. Alright, I guess you don't know that part of the story. It could have been the result of a malfunction, or perhaps the political situation had escalated. Either way, it was not possible for me to establish any means of communication to find out what had really happened. I could have sent myself back to the present with the right coordinates, but this was a risky endeavor, and I also had to ask myself if it was a present that I wanted to return to. I was sure that if anything was even left of our world, the aftermath of a possible retaliatory strike would take care of the rest. In the end, I had to realize that whichever present did exist was likely not the one that was worth returning to. It made my decision all the easier. Instead of returning to a destroyed civilization, I saw an opportunity. Rather than creating bioweapons, I could use the lab to create a new civilization shaped by my own ideals. I had all the necessary data and most of the modern methods of machinery at my fingertips. Besides, most of the processes had already been automated. In the end, I still used the lab for what it had been created for, fusing human and animal DNA to create beings that were mostly animal, but possessed a greater intelligence that allowed them to learn whatever we wanted them to. Okay, so a couple of videos ago, when I accidentally started talking without recording, I began to make a joke about, like, this being the analog of Cat Girls, except with, like, something much, much cooler. And, that is actually not as far off the mark as I probably even thought when I said that. As I didn't have any animal samples sent with me when I initially arrived, I collected them from the sources available to me. Automated processes mixed the DNA further across the samples. New abilities were added like enhanced armor, flight, and spit weapons to make new creatures more effective in combat. Hence the lighter fluid breath thing. The result was a number of different species, each tailored and optimized to fill a specific role in the war situation. Hormones allow me to speed up their growth, and with the lab's learning program, they can be educated in whatever manner I saw fit. My first concern was self-sufficiency. They needed the kind of knowledge that would enable them to come together as their own independent society. Luckily, the AI that automated all the processes in the lab was more than helpful. I unleashed the first generation of my creation, and as their leader, founded our first village. I thought we could really pull it off, and once I saw that they could survive without my guidance, and also govern themselves, I knew my plan was a success. And once again, I flinched because I thought this bottle thing was a face. Alright, when I realized that this new society would eventually be destroyed, I told myself that I would do anything I could to save it. Destroyed? What are you talking about? I guess you slept through the lesson on the Chicxulub impact. Haven't you realized where we are? The Chicxulub... Same exact words. The Chicxulub asteroid is headed for us. With a diameter of over 10 kilometers, its impact will create humongous clouds of dust, throwing the Earth into a literal dark age. They will block out the sunlight for over a year, killing off many species of plants that rely on photosynthesis to survive. As a result, animals that eat those plants will also vanish, as well as those who sought sustenance from those herbivores. And considering that some of us are at the top of the food chain... All in all, 75% of all species will vanish, and in terrestrial ecosystems, all animals heavier than a single kilogram will die. That will be 2.2 pounds, in case you didn't know. It will be the end of everything who lives here, and every single dragon you have seen, unless we do something. What? What am I supposed to do? Yeah, but, I still am not entirely sure how, like, murdering random people is part of your master plan. Do you not wish to save them? I came here to help humanity. Now you tell me that this society, this whole world, is also on the brink of extinction. That is the truth. What kind of a difference could a single person like me even make to save it? Right now, it's also a single person that presents the greatest threat. Reza, how? In order to stop the comet, we will need as much power as possible. We've reclaimed all the generators we stole. Besides, how could a few of them be enough to make a difference for something like this? Well, you see, you could teach them how to make nukes. And if you hit it in just the right place at just the right time. At least I think that's what the plan for, like, if there was supposed to be an asteroid impact on Earth that would be very, very bad would be. Is to hit it with something very big to knock it off course. Long enough beforehand that, it has time to miss. Don't forget that Reza is still out there looking for more. The truth is, I don't know if all the generators we could gather would ever be enough. We only require enough power to divert the comet's path during the crucial moment. But even if this plan is possible, we will need every single generator we can get. So my goal hasn't changed, I just need to find Reza. Yes, but you'll need my help, maybe the help of others. You know that Reza is dangerous, and with his gun, he has a clear advantage. Don't think that he wouldn't hesitate to kill you if you were in his way. Yeah, but what's he trying to do? Did I skip over that? They haven't said, I think, what exactly Reza is trying to do, other than that he's hell-bent on causing trouble. Do you even know where he is? No, but I think you'll find him soon, and you can count on my support when that happens. I see. There's one thing that doesn't make any sense to me, though. The dragons have myths about you, but they don't know or remember you. They haven't seen any humans for who knows how long. How much time could have passed since you created them now? How many generations could it take to forget? Why isn't there proof of your existence? I don't know exactly how long it's been myself. When I realized what time period I was in, and that my creation was about to be wiped out in the future, I wanted to go to that future and see what they had become. I disabled the portal's time access safeguards, and thus enabled it to connect with others in different times. This also included the very same portal in the future. This also included that very same portal in the future. So, the one that you tried to connect to the first time and wasn't able to because it had either been taken offline or nuked. and you found it again, and you took it offline. Okay, this is complicated. With the generator of our lab being able to supply the portal with the power for an indefinite amount of time, I was able to travel to any point in the future I wanted to. The entry and end point of the black hole would be at the same place and the same portal, with the way traveled back just being along the time axis. Since I could now search for connection points in any time period, I could look for my own portal in the future. Okay, so you're just like mailing a letter to yourself. Okay, I got it. And pinpoint the moment its signal stopped. The comet. Exactly. Okay, so you're really messing with the timeline right now. I found a specific point in time and traveled to the future that was as close to that event as I could safely manage. After I arrived here, my escape from the portal's hiding place led me to its discovery by the dragons. It and the laboratory were unearthed. I still don't understand how our portal found yours, or why we ended up arriving at this particular time period. The portal you found was no doubt one of my company's. They must have been connected before, so the corresponding data... Okay, so when your company disappeared, that's not the same time as my company disappeared. Or my society disappeared anyway, that was something else. Where was I? So the corresponding data for their connection already existed when you found it. I'm not sure if that could bypass the anti-time travel safeguards, though. Was it completely operational when you found it? No, it took a little bit of tinkering. Probably jumping into the hardware safeguard of the process. Probably what? Probably jumping the hardware safeguard of the process, okay. Now consider that connected portals travel along the time axis together. The data from the beginning and the endpoints are adjusted automatically. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to transport anything from one place in the world to another without sending it through time. Since the two portals must have been connected at some point, the corresponding data from the connection between those two portals already existed. And somehow this still makes more sense than the god theorizing in Harvest December. When using the same connection without changing any of the data, this would mean that despite the time discrepancy between the two portals, time still progressed linearly from them. So I think what he's saying is that, like, his people built the portal and sent him back here. 100 years passed, say, for an example, and then I found the portal and jumped into it, and then I jumped out of his portal at the end 100 years after he did. I think that's what all that meant. Let me try to rephrase that. The portal you found in my own share a connection. However, while the connection is locked to a certain place, which is wherever the portal is at that very moment, it is not connected to a specific point in time. For us and the physical machines that are the portals, time passes linearly and we can't do anything about that. However, for the black holes, this isn't the case. Just as their entry and endpoints can be in different places, they can also be in different times. Okay, so that is the exact opposite of what I just said. In order to not send something through the time when we just want to transport something from one portal to another, the portals are anchored together in such a way that the time data is automatically synchronized. Essentially, this means that ever since you arrived in this world, the same amount of time that has passed for you has also passed in the place where you came from. Okay, so I was right. I see, so despite being in different time periods, time still passes linearly on both sides of the portals. Otherwise, it would not have been possible for you to send messages back and forth to each other. Yeah, that checks out. If they were not synchronized, the portals on both sides would stay connected not only to a single point in space, but also to a single point in time, thus making proper two-way communication impossible. Sure. However, this is only possible through the connection that has already been forged. If we wanted to, and I feel like this is getting to the point where he should start breaking out a whiteboard or something, we could also use our portal to send you back to your own time period, but to a moment before Reza even arrived. But that would mean there would be two of me, right? Wouldn't that cause a paradox? I can only tell you that it would work. No one has studied time travel before, so if there are any consequences, then I am not sure of them. Most likely, an entire new timeline would be created. Alright, that sounds awful, and I don't want to touch it. There would be a timeline without Stupid altogether, and there would be a new one. There would be two of you. This is becoming way too complicated. I apologize. To come back to your original question, I am not sure how much time passed between the time I left my newborn society and now. Since the portal was not designed for time travel, I have no way of knowing how the variables translated to our perception of time. It could have been thousands or even millions of years. How could the portal, or even its power source, still be operational after all this time? The portal receives its power from the generator in the lab. These units were fitted with the absolute best technology we had to offer. It was designed to provide sustainable power, completely independent from any already existing network or power lines. It gains energy from many sources: sun rays, the Earth's heat and movement, just to name a few. Keep in mind, it had to power the whole laboratory and research station, while also providing the energy required for all of its inhabitants and the associated energy expenditures. Taking its power from Earth itself, a generator like this could continue providing power to the lab indefinitely. Speaking of which, why haven't I seen a single dinosaur since I arrived? It seems that the Dragon Society expanded over the whole continent. Many still hunt on their own for sustenance, and as such, the original species they were based on have mostly vanished, as in direct competition, ours proved to be far superior. Also, they have probably taken measures against having big predators roam around in their cities and villages. Yet while the dragon population has increased tremendously, I have found that by and large, their society as a whole has not changed much. Is that why everything here looks like it was made for humans? I suppose so. The learning program I initially used gave them knowledge about things and how to create them. Okay, so remember how I was taking the joke way too far about why does the stop error look like Windows 10 or whatever back in the beginning, even though there was no reason I could figure out that should be. That is the reason. Okay, so their technology is directly based on ours. That's nice. Yeah, of course, those were only human inventions and designs. Did they never once stop to think that they should just adjust how certain things look? A lot of furniture and objects I've seen look very impractical for a dragon. Chairs, for instance. I was surprised at that too, but I have an explanation for this phenomenon. Don't forget that their genome was designed by an AI, programmed to make them into effective bioweapons. The idea was to have them indoctrinated at an early young age. After reaching adolescence, their learning capacity would be greatly diminished. That's mean. This resulted in subjects that would stay loyal and be unlikely to change their desired behaviors. Okay. Instincts also play a role. I imagine they are very much at odds with their learned behavior. Instincts in animals never change, and instinctual behaviors will always be there. If a given trait has been programmed into the genome as an instinct, it is not very likely to change even through numerous generations. Although, after all you've done, with like the combining genes and stuff, I feel like that really should just be a triviality that you can take care of in like an afternoon. Complexity. We can see the results of this here. When I initially made them learn a certain set of values and knowledge, I found that the expression of those ideas was hardly changed. I suppose you could make the argument that just adding features is always easier than removing features and making sure everything doesn't break because you don't know what might or might not depend on them. Alright. Lessons from software dev. I have found that the expression of those ideas has hardly changed. And after I was gone, each new generation learned from its elders, and much of the initial knowledge and information was retained through all this time. Their genome as a whole did change, however, which was unavoidable over time. If they had been used as bioweapons as intended, they would have been nothing more than an army of identical clones. Which is, I hope, which is not the case. While I can see subtle changes in behaviors as a result, some traits are still very much present in them. They are content with what they have and don't strive for more. They don't innovate or change, so technological breakthroughs or new inventions are a rarity. It is quite the opposite, really. They very much value tradition and their ways, which have not changed much in all these years. And with that said, I feel like if that was true, more of the people that I've run into would be much more in the myths and legends. How much time do you even have left to stop the comet? Yeah, getting to the important questions. In a few weeks, the comet will pass the moon, and its gravity field will point the comet's trajectory towards Earth. This is where we will need to be ready. Okay, so taking a few years and just nudging it off course isn't an option. If we strike then, we only need to minimally affect its path in order for the comet to pass the Earth safely. It won't be enough time for the inhabitants of this world to prepare if Reza steals one of our greatest assets. So it's all about Reza and the generators, isn't it? Yeah, but what's his motivation? You haven't told me that yet. Indeed. By the way, I fixed the portal in case we need to use it. Did you break it to prevent me from being sent away? No, that wasn't me. Reza better not use it to escape. Trust me, the portal is our greatest asset. I have programmed it with emergency coordinates. If you should find yourself in a hopeless situation and feel there is no other way out, go to the portal. Is that a self-destruct button that I can hit? If I choose all the wrong story options? I have made sure only you will be able to use it then. I'll keep that in mind. So what's your plan? What do we do now? I will resume my work, and you will continue yours. Find Reza. And the administrator turned to leave. Wait, what's with all the secrecy? Why are you wearing that mask? Why don't we pull our resources together and you show me your hideout? Don't you think it would be better if we were completely frank with me? No, not now. A second later, the figure had already vanished into the darkness outside. Nice. Alright, so I've been recording this video for almost a half an hour, and, that was pretty important stuff, and I didn't want to interrupt it, but I'm gonna end it off here. Oops. My name is Stupid, this has been Angels with Scaly Wings. In the next part, I honestly don't know what we're going to do, because we've got to talk to somebody, and I don't know who that's gonna be. Probably the police, but on the other hand, it might be better to go to, like, the Department of Energy or something. I will see you all later.